These 22 Lowrider STs are known for having wimpy rear brakes. I really don't think it feels that bad, but it isn't quite as snappy as some of the other rear brakes on some of the other bikes I've ridden, even some of the Harleys. I find if you find your rear brake isn't powerful enough, use more front brake. But that's for another video. Either way, generally when you flush your brake fluid, you do get a little bit more responsive of a feel in your lever or your pedal. So I'm going to flush out the rear brake fluid on this thing today, and hopefully we'll get a little bit firmer brake feel out of the thing. This is a pretty simple task. The only thing you need is a one-man bleeder. You can buy these things at your local auto parts store. Just a little hand vacuum pump. You need your container of... You'll need your container of Amsoil brake fluid. A Phillips screwdriver. And a 5/16 and or 8mm wrench. Probably some absorbent pads, because at some point you're going to spill brake fluid. It always seems to happen. I don't know how or why, it just does. But either way, this is a pretty simple task. You don't need a lift. You don't really need any special tools other than the hand pump bleeder. You could do this on your driveway with the bike on the side stand. I believe in you. Now this does have ABS on it, so there is the concern of, will I flush all the fluid out of the ABS unit? Honestly, you're probably not going to get every drop out of there just by flushing at the bleeder. However, you're still going to get the majority of it out of there. And it's not like this is 20-some-year-old brake fluid where it's really bad and the whole system needs to be flushed. I'm going to flush it today, and after 2 riding seasons, I'm going to flush it again. So any old fluid should be mixed in there, and it's really not a big concern. So the first thing we're going to do is take our Phillips screwdriver, and we're going to break these 2 Phillips screws free, which I already did. But thread both of them out of there. And before you remove the cap, make sure you have a clean location to put them. So I'm going to take some fancy dollar store shop towels, put them down there, and take the cap off, set it down there, and then we're going to take this little plastic, whatever that thing is, and we're going to set it down there, and then we're going to take this little rubber thing that, the whole point of this little rubber thing is it actually droops down and takes up the air spaces in there. That way if your brake fluid is sloshing around, you don't accidentally pull air into your reservoir or into your master cylinder. Pretty slick, huh? So what I'll end up doing is, as I run the bleeder at the back, I'm periodically going to have to come to the front here and keep adding more brake fluid. What you want to be careful of as you're doing this is, as you keep pumping the hand pump on the rear brake, you're going to pull this fluid level down. You want to make sure you top it off with brake fluid before it gets to the bottom. Otherwise, you'll suck air into your master, and then you have to go bleed your whole master cylinder or bleed out your entire system. All right, from there, let's move back to the rear brake caliper. So we're going to take our one-man brake bleeder here. We're going to put the little rubber end over top of the bleeder screw. Now, I'm going to pump it up a little bit and draw a wee little bit of vacuum, which, there, now you can see the vacuum on the gauge. What I'm going to do is then crack the bleeder free. So there, I cracked the bleeder free. As you can hopefully see here, there's brake fluid starting to dribble down this hose, and that will all end up in this catch can right here. And as I'm doing this, I can see the front reservoir, and I can see where the brake fluid is. So I'm watching it until it gets down pretty low, but not all the way. Well, this may or may not show up on camera, but it does look like the fluid that's coming out of the hose is a little bit clearer than the stuff in the reservoir. And there's not a huge difference in color on these because this fluid really wasn't that old, which is, of course, why you do it on a regular basis. So I'm pretty much calling that good. So this entire vial is about how much I pulled out of it. And honestly, it's about 3 master cylinders full. So I'm going to tighten up that bleeder there. Don't kill it, just tighten it up. And from there, we'll do the final top off of our brake fluid. You want to get it to 3/4, 7/8 away up the glass. Ideally, you want to see a tiny little air bubble on that glass. Now keep in mind, this bike is standing up straight and level. When it's on its side stand, you might have to put a shim under it to straighten the bike up a little bit, or just keep that in mind when you take the cap off. Because if the reservoir is tilted to the side, obviously fluid's coming out. So there, you can take your cap here, or your little rubber air dampener thingamajigger. Actually, before we put that on, let me explain something here. You really should put that on this plastic housing first. And here's why. Because otherwise, if it's not on there, when you go to put this plastic cap on, you could actually push this little rubber diaphragm down in there. So we've got on that little plastic cap. Now we'll put it down in there. And then from there, we'll put our cap on top. Then take our Phillips screwdriver. Get both screws started. Then tighten them down. You don't need to kill it. But remember, you got to compress that rubber a little bit. You got to make sure it seals. You don't want brake fluid getting out. And you're right here by the front wheel, so it's getting sprayed a lot if it gets wet. So you don't want water getting in. All right. Wipe off any excess brake fluid. Give your brake lever a pump. It should feel pretty good.